The Indians, satisfied with their great victory, moved on to find a new campsite and decide what to do next regarding the white man.
During that 1 week, the village doubled from 400 and some lodges to 1,000 lodges. During that week, the population doubled from 3,000 to 7,000 people. During that week, the number of warriors more than doubled from about 800 to 2,000.
It would be one of the largest Indian encampments recorded in American history. Meanwhile, the celebrated 7th Cavalry, led by the Army's golden boy, General George Armstrong Custer, was closing in on their campsite, planning a massive surprise attack.
I could whip all the Indians on the continent with the 7th Cavalry. George Armstrong Custer, June 1876.
Custer, who had no concept as to how large the Indian village was, now divided his already small force of 480 men into 3 smaller columns, to be led by Major Marcus Reno, Captain Frederick Benteen, and George Custer himself.
When Custer attacked at the Little Bighorn on June 25, 1876, the Indians thought it was Crook's column once again. They quickly rallied, even though taken by surprise.
Hey, it is a good day to fight. It is a good day to die. Strong hearts, brave hearts to the front. Weak hearts and cowards to the rear. Crazy Horse, June 1876.
Major Reno struck the Indian village at its southern end, and here was where the first fighting took place. It was touch and go until Crazy Horse arrived on the scene. There was a great cry of triumph went up as Crazy Horse rode up with his warriors and joined into the fight. And it was only shortly after that that Major Reno made a headlong retreat back in the direction from which he had come.
As Major Reno barely escaped across the Little Bighorn River, Captain Benteen approached to reinforce Reno's troops, leaving Custer and his troops vulnerable to Crazy Horse and his warriors.
Those Indians who rode with Crazy Horse rode with him because of inspiring leadership, rather than because of any sense of command in the white man's definition of the term. But Crazy Horse was such a superb warrior, and his feats of individual bravery on the battlefield were such that warriors did follow him in battle.
He was not a bit excited. I saw him on his pinto pony, leading his men across the ford. He was the first man to cross the river. He had the business well in hand. Shortbow.
Crazy Horse and his men appeared in the rear, and this arrival of Crazy Horse and his warriors at this juncture probably led to the initial collapse of the 7th Cavalry units and probably contributed to the entire demise of Custer's command.
In this fight, Crazy Horse again led by example and by reckless deeds of bravery. The warriors followed him, and each tried to outdo the other, improving their courage on the battlefield. Custer's detachment was cut to pieces. His men pushed back to a last stand on a hill above the Little Bighorn. 40 of his men made a final breakout and were all slaughtered.
The Battle of the Little Bighorn marked the greatest Indian victory against the whites in U.S. history. Figuring on some sort of retaliation, the Indians quickly packed up and moved camp. Sitting Bull going to the southwest, Crazy Horse heading southeast. The Indians burned the grass behind them, making cavalry pursuit impossible.